city in this dense population zone of Portland, Oregon. And I think a lot of it is technological. I think also there could be some energetic changes going on. But you talk about in this book the true reality of sexuality. And I want to get your thoughts on the human species and how we've gotten to this point now where it seems that man and woman in this new world order are at war with one another on an energetic level. Part of it is competition for fewer and fewer jobs and fewer Federal Reserve notes that are worth less and less every day. And part of it is something else. When we look at Lady Gaga today, we look at other artists like her, we see literally the burning destruction of the goddess, and we can also see its impact on the youth to keep us off balance and fighting one another instead of realizing the situation that we're in. How do you see this playing itself out, this attack on the goddess within us all in a way, the feminine self, the female?
Well, I actually think there's an attack on both the male and the female sides of self, and what I'm seeing in the last decade is a push towards androgynous behavior, where you see some kids in high school, you don't know if they're male or female, and we look at a person like Michael Jackson, for example, unfortunately passed away, but he didn't know if he was male or female or even his race or gender or what. He didn't know what he was, and basically that is the prototype that they want for humanity, for people to not know who or what they are and to just go along with whatever they're told without question. If you look at what people are wearing, the hairstyles, how they act, there is no separation of gender, and of course people look at that as an equalization of male and female, and that might be true on one level, but on the bigger level, on what's going on behind it, it is really the dehumanization of our species and creating a third kind of sex and species, which is completely different than anything we ever knew before.
Well, it's strange, like the rate at which young women are developing their first period, for example, or breasts, it's still plummeting. It still hasn't hit bottom. So I'm wondering what's going on with that potential deliberate manipulation of our hormonal levels, creating an industrialized society where our bodies are flooded with estrogen, so men and women are both affected in many, many ways. It raises the question as to what humanity is being prepped for, and so I think what you're saying is very, very interesting, as well as Tom Horn, which has been on the show, and he talks about transhumanism, the new man being created that is merging more and more with technology that's currently being developed.
I agree with that. And going along with what you said just before, sperm counts are coming down so that there's less fertility now. Females are having problem with their monthly cycles also. In fact, they're giving out pills now for women to not have cycle for 5 or 6 months at a time. So basically, we're seeing people who are asexual, and ultimately that's going to lead to the inability for natural procreation of our species. And then the government can step in with artificial procreation, artificial wombs, so that no one even has parents anymore. You have artificial fetuses developing in artificial wombs that are then matured and taken to places where they're raised like little robots. And that is what, unfortunately, I see as the future of our society.
Sure. So we're reaching this climax where we're literally under attack on so many different levels. However, when 2012 it does come around in a couple of years, do you see a positive energetic shift coming to the planet, aside from the end of the world doomsday stuff that the Illuminati are programming on their channels to get us afraid and terrified? What do you see in terms of energy changes coming to the planet? And do you see also, like some other researchers, the reptilians actually in a panic mode, trying to create as much chaos as they can just to hold on to their form or their current existence in this realm?
Well, we are going to see in the next 2 years a lot of volatility on this planet, a lot of geological upheavals, which will be ELF and microwave enhanced. In other words, they take naturally occurring events that might take hundreds or thousands of years to actually have happened, and they speed them up so that they occur in a very short period of time. We're also going to see shifts in the weather. For example, the Gulf oil disaster has caused the Gulf Stream to be discontinued, and that's going to create very severe winters, especially for the northern hemisphere, for many years to come, and even by 2014 may create an ice age that will last for decades, if not thousands of years. So we're going to see that kind of thing happen. All of this being man-made, nothing to do with any retribution from God or from sunspots or anything like that. This is all man-made disasters on the earth in order to create fear and panic for globalization. The real agenda for 2012 is not the end of a timeline cycle. It's really an agenda for complete global domination by the Illuminati and all aspects of life being under that control. I do feel, however, that as human beings are pushed into a corner, they're going to realize, and I think they already are starting to, that something isn't right, that they need to fight back, and I think that is an aspect of human species that the Illuminati did not take into control. They did not realize that human beings will fight back when they're pushed into a corner, and that they will override the mind control when they are forced to.
There was a call while you were away that asked about the beings of the light because there's so much information about the reptilians. He was asking about the Nordics. There are many that write about the Pleiadians. Your take on the other side of the story, the other beings that are here coexisting alongside the reptilians?
There are literally millions of civilizations out there. What I know that your readers, your listeners may have heard about Pleiadians and all, and those beings do exist, but not in the way that they've been told. A lot of the information about Pleiadians, for example, comes from New Age information that was written and directed by government. In fact, much, if not all of the New Age was created in 1965 by the U.S. government in order to skewer spiritual ideas on the earth and create this New World religion and philosophy. Yes.
Right. When I was a child, I heard about this Ashtar Command stuff, and people were talking about the millennium, 2000, and this great shift, and everybody being enlightened, and Ashtar Command, and basically the ET rapture that many in the New Age movement believe in, the different version of the Christian rapture. So you see this as being engineered by design by intelligence agencies and other groups too.
I know for a fact that it's all mind control and programming. I mean, here we are, 2010. 2000 came a decade ago, and there's no shift.
No shift. Well, we saw Y2K, of course, something that I suspect was a deliberately planned hoax to create a cry wolf scenario. So when the real disaster, the real need to get prepared came, nobody would come and listen because they were lied to 10 years earlier. What are your thoughts on the whole Y2K situation they launched us into?
Again, all of these events, these faux events, are designed to create fear and panic. They know when they create mindsets of fear, it opens up people's brains for input of programming and mind control. That is the sole purpose behind it. And that's why I tell people, whatever you hear on the news, don't believe it. It's a manufactured news. In fact, I travel globally, and I can tell you that the news in other countries is very different than what we have here.
In the last 10 minutes that we have you, Stuart, what do you talk about in your seminars that are along the lines of getting out of victim consciousness, unblocking our energies, connecting with our true selves? What advice would you give to people that are pretty much damn freaked out about the future as we look at all these things going on?
Well, in my work, in my seminars, I teach people how to open the 90% of the brain that they're not using and the 97% of the DNA, so-called junk DNA, that they're not utilizing either. If you open up even a percentage of either one of those, you can be a much more whole and functional person than you are now. I tell people that reality is what you make it. No matter what is going on around you, you are the creator of your experiences. I use the analogy that thoughts are like film, the brain is the projector, and physical reality is the screen. If you don't like the movie that's playing around you, you got to change the film, which is the way you think. Thoughts are everything. You need to be in control of your thoughts, and when you project out a thought